Hi everyone, welcome back to another video and happy holidays. I want to start off the video by saying that I'm sorry I didn't upload a video last week. I had some health issues. Basically, I have a hernia on my spine, and usually like most of the time I'm fine. It doesn't bother me almost at all, but yeah, last week it acted up and I had a lot of pain and I couldn't even like sit down to record or anything like that. So that's why I didn't upload, but I'm back at it and and yeah, I'm ready to tell you guys more about the world and the things that have been going on. And yeah, I'm gonna get to that, so get comfy because I'm gonna tell you all about what's been going on. Okay, so let me drink some coffee. Got the Christmas spirit going on. Anyway, so yeah, let me get right into it because there's a lot. So on the last episode, I was talking about how the battle between the gods and the evil god led to the end of the second age because the gods went away. But before moving on to the third age, which is going to be what this video is going to be all about, I will mention quickly some locations that are important that were built during the second age because they're basically like the main players in this region of the world. So, you know what? I'm gonna actually use a very badly drawn doodle of like the map that I did yesterday. I feel a little bit embarrassed to a certain extent because the drawings are really bad. Like I said, they were really just some doodles that I did quite quickly. Like it took me like 2 minutes to make this map. So don't expect high quality, drawings or artistry or whatever. I'm not really an artist in that sense, but I will show you just to give you a bit of a visual cue type thing. So here is the map. I'll tell you guys it wasn't the best. And yeah, as you can see on this map, we have some important locations. So basically, we have the central city, which was like the first ever city. Then we have the second city, which is the largest city, human city. There are other creatures that's also important to mention. I decided on actually going on that, down that route, and they're pretty cool. I'll talk about them later. But yeah, we do have these like they're basically like gentle giant, spirit attuned creatures that are really chill and like I said, gentle giants basically. Then we have the underground city, which is where a lot of people went to live after the, actually I'm not gonna say after what. I'm just gonna keep the vague for now. But yeah, there is an underground city. And we have a cold desert city up in the north. We have to the east the mountains, and beyond that is the remains of the great goddess. And to the south we have the great forest. And there is another player that is basically gonna, like during the second age it wasn't there, but during the third age is gonna start getting more traction, if you will, which is a Clockwork Empire. It's a working title, it's not gonna be the final name. None of these names are gonna be the final names, but yeah. And we do have a great pit on the very far west of this region that basically cuts off this entire region of the map from elsewhere in the world. So this region is basically like it's got ocean on the east, and then we have a great pit on the west, and this pit is like cutting any sort of like movement to the other parts of the world. But it's not completely isolated. There are two paths to all the way up and all the way down to get across them, but yeah, they are very difficult to reach, and so most people they've just kind of been living here after the second age. During the second age, while the gods were still there, the pit wasn't there. The pit is where most of the rock came from for the floating islands. There are other smaller pits throughout, but I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, basically after the gods went away, this entire region of the world became very isolated from the rest. And what's going on in the rest of the world is something that I'm not yet sure of. I don't know what's going on there. I do think that there are other people living up and doing stuff, but I haven't explored that those areas of the world. So think of this map and this story. I'm thinking that the story is going to be set mostly in this region rather than in like the whole world. So it's more Lord of the Rings and less Molassan, like it's gonna be less like, oh my gosh, let's explore all the continents, rather, you know what I mean? It's gonna be less that, and it's gonna be more like, let's explore this one section, But it's a good sizable section though. There's a lot going on. But anyway, so yeah, those are the main locations that you need to know. So now we get into the good stuff, the Third Age. So what's been going on after the gods went away? And I'll tell you in a second. Let me just take another sip. So in this Third Age, two main things happened. The first thing was that right after the Battle of the Gods, when the rocks just started floating into the sky and stuff. Because of that, the Great Pit was created, as well as other smaller ditches and holes and other smaller pits and stuff like that. And this led to a lot of problems, you see, because there were monsters in the underground, and a lot of monsters started coming out every now and then, and that was causing a lot of issues. So all of these kingdoms kind of came together and tried, we should do something about the monsters coming out. So what they did was that they decided to try to fill up most of the ditches and holes and smaller pits that they could with, in whatever way they could, to stop the monsters from coming. But for all the other pits that were too large for to be filled or whatever, what they ended up doing was setting up these basically like military type checkpoints. Maybe I don't know if checkpoint's the right word, but basically like military camps where people from all over the kingdoms would come, and like the best warriors type thing would come, and they would guard these locations, to defend against possible hordes of monsters. So the people that went to protect these pits, they were great warriors, but at first it was mostly the first faction, which was called, working title, the Protectors. I know, super original, but it's just a placeholder name for now, don't worry. But these people were basically like the first form of, like, I don't want to call it police, but yeah, they were like the first kind of protectors of both men and these other sentient creatures. I don't have a name for them yet, but I'm just gonna call them for now the green ones, because they tend to be kind of green in their skin tone. So they were basically the protectors of humans and the green ones. And when these pits, started having a lot of monsters coming out of them, they sent the protectors to, protect. As time went on, the protectors, they weren't that massive of a faction, but they started having more people join their ranks. And other kingdoms also had like volunteers that weren't part of the protectors, but that still wanted to help protect the kingdoms against the monsters. So it became this sort of like mixture of cultures and stuff. And for the most part, everyone was pretty chill about it. Like, they all kind of hung out, and they were like, I mean, it's us against the monsters, so let's be buddies, basically. And obviously, this became like something that people thought of, like, wow, the protectors, they're like so cool. They're literally protecting the rest of the world, of our world, of our region, from all these monsters. Like, they are so, brave and all that stuff, So, yeah. And on the greatest like pit. By the way, I just want to mention, I don't actually know if the right word is pit or not. Remember that English isn't my first language, so please bear with me. But anyway, yeah, on this great pit, that's where like most of the kingdoms came together to really like set up different camps, and it just went like this, going upwards and stuff. So yeah, that is basically like, think of this like the Great Wall of China type thing. It's like this just really long wall. It's not necessarily like, a massive wall, like 3,000 million miles up or something like that. Like, it's not, but it is very long, and it's, somewhat tall and stuff like that. It was a great effort that was put together by all the kingdoms to defend against the hordes of monsters. Now, what goes on the other side, I don't actually know, and I don't think that anyone else knows either. because the pit is like very wide and it's covered in this like mist or like clouds or stuff like that. So no one is ever really capable of seeing on the other side. At least that's the idea that I'm working with right now. I'm not sure if I'll stick with it or not, but it's a very like wide gap, it's very, very massive and it's very deep as well. So moving on. So that's the first thing that happened on this part of history of the Third Age. So the other thing that happened during the Third Age was that all the kingdoms were together. They were working together to protect the pits and the Great Pit and all that stuff. And everything was going fine, but then at some point, the people in the north, they kind of started having a little bit of some differences with everyone else a little bit. And so, I mean, it wasn't necessarily something that they were like, it wasn't like they were mean or something like that, but I mean, their main city was like very far to the north. They were geographically a little bit isolated from everyone else, and it just started becoming this thing, where it just naturally started becoming a little bit more like that. I mean, they still traded, of course, and they still went about, and there was like people going and coming and whatnot, but they were for sure like the black sheep of the family, so to speak. However, they were the ones that discovered two very important things. The first thing that they discovered is that after the great god battle or war or whatever you want to call it, the spirits, they started becoming a little crazy, basically. Not every spirit, but some spirits started going a little haywire, and they became sort of evil. And they would come up to people and they would kind of invade them without them knowing, and they would kind of infect them with like negative emotions and thoughts and ideas. And all this led to, well, people starting to become a little more difficult, basically. Not everyone. It was a very slow process at first, and so it went unnoticed for a while, but they were the first to discover this, because I'm not sure how. I'm thinking that maybe, someone just saw it happen in real time or something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, man, they were like, what is going on? And they discovered this, and they were like, oh my God, what do? We should tell someone that this is happening, because there started to be basically like groups of people coming together, like infected people coming together to cause damage, basically, This also affected like animals, for instance, and all of this led to some animals even mutating a little bit and becoming more predatory and more monster-like. So it was a dark time for sure, and all people, like all these people were like, all the people of the north, not literally all, but you know what I mean? They were like, what do we do? Like, we should talk to someone. So they went and they talked to the other kingdoms, and they were like, okay, quick meeting. We gotta do, like, we discovered this and we have evidence for this. What do we do? How do we go from here? And everyone was like, no, we should set up this like quarantine, or we should set up like this thing where, you know what I mean? Like very noisy stuff. And it was the people of the north that were like, I don't think this is the right way to go about this, because we don't really have a way to discover or test if people are infected or not. And just going crazy right now and telling everyone about it, I think it's just going to cause a lot of like paranoia. So what they ended up doing was they said, you know what, let's do something different. Let's try to keep it hidden for now, and let's just try to figure out what we're dealing with first. And once we have figured out what is going on, maybe then we can think about going public on this or whatever. And so the people of the north were the ones that were kind of like at the front of this whole thing. And at some point, they did discover a way to tell if someone was infected. The problem though was that it needed to be a little more, basically the infection needed to take hold a little more. And of course, this led to a lot of conflict, right? And so the north, what ended up happening was they started this new faction, which were a placeholder name. They were the hunters. So what they worked in doing was basically tracking down people and the groups of people that were, converging together to cause bad stuff to happen. And they would try to rescue as many people as they could, because they found out that they could, through a ritual-like healing process, they could release the person from the infection of the evil spirit. But if the infection had taken hold for too long, it was very unlikely for them to be saved. because the detachment would cause a lot of problems, and so they would send people secretly, and they would try to figure out if their targets were capable of being saved or not. And if they were, they would take them out and try to save them. And if they couldn't be saved anymore, they would terminate them, basically. So they started working in secret with the other kingdoms as well, and it became a very secretive thing. The reason why it needed to be that way was because going public could have led to a lot of, like I said, paranoia and stuff like that, because you couldn't tell who had been infected. I mean, most people that were infected didn't know they were infected until much later, and by then they were changed. So it was a very, like I said, it was a dark time for sure, and all of this led to basically a secret war because, and this is the other thing that they discovered, the people of the north in their lands discovered what can only be called a place of power, so to speak, So these were basically like magic hotspots where a lot of concentration of magic was like coming out, And at first they found one, and later they found another, and the people of other kingdoms started finding them as well. Interestingly enough, and make of this what you will, there are legends that say that the people of the north heard one of the gods that went away, basically flying nearby these places of power. And yeah, I'm not gonna say much more, but anyway. So these places of power, they became quite quickly like places of worship to the great goddess. And they became important because some people, because of this whole thing that was happening with this infection and whatnot, some people created, I'm not gonna say what, but I'm gonna say basically like items of power, if you will. And these items were very secret and they were very powerful. And yeah, I'm not gonna say much more. But anyway, the point is that during this time, something else happened. One of the infected people came across one of these places of power by basically infiltrating one of these places because, like I said, they're kind of infected, they're being manipulated a little bit. So one thing led to another. I'm not gonna say necessarily what. You're gonna have to read the book for that, maybe. And I say maybe because I don't actually know if I'm gonna tell this story in depth. If I don't, trust me, I will do something with this story and tell you guys more about it in depth. But for now, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use it or not, so I'm just gonna keep it vague. But the point is that one of these infected people came across the places of power, and basically like a paranormal thing happened and new types of monsters were created, and these were very dark monsters. They were basically like, actually, funnily enough, now that I think of it, I think they kind of look a little bit like the dragon priests from Skyrim, a little bit. I mean, I'm probably gonna change the design a little as I write it, but yeah, right now the visual that I'm getting is from that. But anyway, yeah, and well, people had to, these hunters, this secret society had to come together and basically go to war with these creatures to stop them from becoming too powerful, because if they became too powerful, there was a potential for them, taking over. And while it wouldn't have been a apocalyptic event per se, it would have been a very dark thing, so think of this like it would have been as if the Dark Lord won, sort of like kind of think Mistborn, right? Like that would have been the future if they hadn't stopped them. So after winning this war, that is when the Fourth Age starts. However, there is one thing that I need to say, is that some people from different kingdoms basically didn't really love the way that the kingdoms were doing their thing and decided to go and do their own thing. This is like happening at like the halfway point of the Third Age, maybe, I'm not sure. And so these people went away and they kind of came together in this one region where, it was just wilderness. And they said, let's make a kingdom of our own. And they started building. And these people they're the Clockwork Empire. Like I said, it's a placeholder name for now. But the reason why I'm calling them that is because they're the most like technologically advanced kingdom of this entire region, potentially even of the world, I'm not sure. Don't worry, it's not like sci-fi levels of technology or anything like that. It's not at all, like, it's not even steampunk really, but yeah, for sure they are like more technologically advanced, and that is causing some issues for sure with like the natural world and the spirits and stuff like that. So I'm really excited actually to start talking more about them. And those, I'm so far like the plan or the ideas that I have is that you'll hear from them very soon in the book. Like once you're reading the book, in the first couple of chapters, you'll start to, see how they live a little bit and stuff like that. And I think that's basically it for this age. So now the plan, or what I have in mind, is that I think I'm probably gonna do another video, this time focusing on the Skylands and the Sky Islands, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, I'm gonna be focusing on them coming on the next video because they play a major role in the story, and I feel like that world is so cool, and that like emphasis on the world, because they really like, because of how isolated they are from everything else, they have like their own kingdoms and their own world, basically. Like everything that is happening on like the surface level, like with the central city and all that stuff, that history, this 3 ages of history that I just mentioned, the Sky Islands have been having their own ages as well since the second age, so actually no, since the third age. Yeah, so this whole age, this third age, that's when these guys started really thriving, really. So I have an entire age worth of history that I need to tell you guys about. And after that, I think I'm gonna finally start writing the story, actually, like, start working on the first draft. I mean, I'm a little intimidated, of course, because part of me is like, I feel like there's so much I still don't know. Like, what kind of food do they eat? What kind of medicine do they have? What is the magic system here? Like, what is going on, a little bit. But I am thinking also that I can just kind of discover it as I write a little bit. I mean, right now, some of the stuff that I'm working in is actually the magic system, which I'm going to be talking about in later videos, probably. But I don't think I'm going to go into like a hard magic system, to be honest. I think I prefer my magic to be a little more mysterious and a little more like less science, more magic, sort of. So without further ado, I think that this is going to be it for now. I'm excited. So yeah, if you like the video, please subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified when I upload new videos, which I'm hoping to do that weekly. And like the video and share it if you want and all that stuff, because all of that helps me immensely with like the algorithm and recommending my videos to new people and reaching a wider audience and all that stuff. So that would mean the world to me, really. And before going, I just want to say I'm hoping to upload one last video next week, but since like Christmas is coming and the New Year's and all that stuff, I'm not quite sure if I'll be able to get it done. But trust me, my intention is 100% to get it done and to be able to give you guys one last video before the new year. But just in case that I don't go through with this, because like I said, it's a very busy time and all that stuff, I just want to wish you guys, all of you, happy holidays. Have a great time, whatever it is you celebrate. I hope you have a great time. And yeah, I'm hopefully gonna be seeing you one more time before the year ends next week. But yeah, without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.